So All-Star game is coming up, and Otani's a big story there. Tell us what All-Star game means for Major League Baseball.
Well, it's baseball's big exhibition. Everybody watches it. It's going to be the chance for a lot of people to see Otani that really haven't been able to see much of him. They've just sort of heard about what he's doing, but if they're not watching the Angels games, they probably don't really see him play on a regular basis. Everybody's going to see him. There's going to be lots of talk about him. There are going to be lots of talk from other players about him during the All-Star game. So it's going to be a really big opportunity for baseball fans all over the world that maybe we're not paying as close of attention the first 3 months of the season to really see what he's all about.
What does it mean for Major League Baseball to have someone like Otani in the All-Star game? What are they trying to get out of him?
Obviously, the Major League Baseball is all about making money. And the way they make money is by having interest, people watching it, and people buying things. And, there's certainly going to be a lot of eyeballs that will watch the game to see what Otani does that maybe wouldn't watch it otherwise. So that is basically the Otani's value to Major League Baseball. Otani is the reason that this All-Star game is different and exciting. Otherwise, they're pretty much all the same.
Major League Baseball is suffering from a few setbacks, like moving the All-Star game from Georgia to Colorado and also the sticky substance issue. How important is it that they have someone like Otani in the All-Star game?
Well, I don't think those are really big problems for baseball. I think that, the political issue is something that was people talked about when it happened back when they first moved the All-Star game from Atlanta. But I don't think now anybody is really concerned with it. It happened. The sticky substance issue, I don't think people are really focusing much on that anymore because it seems to be addressed in a pretty subtle way now. I don't think anybody even really notices the pitchers getting checked anymore. I think baseball's bigger problem is just that the way the sport has gone, there are too many strikeouts and the games are a little slow sometimes. There's a lack of action with just, a lot of strikeouts and walks. And I think that's the kind of thing that they're losing viewers over. And just basically getting a lot of people to watch Otani certainly will help bring back some more people that have maybe kind of got bored with baseball, just being the same old sport.
Tell us how the All-Star game was moved from Georgia to Denver.
Well, there was some laws made in Georgia that were basically a lot of people thought they were to suppress voters, so kind of to make it harder for different people to vote. And a lot of people feel that's not democratic and that you want to have as many people voting as possible. And Major League Baseball, I guess, in order to make a stand that say that they didn't approve of these laws, they moved the All-Star game out of Georgia. And so that's why it went to Colorado.
How big was the backlash?
There was a short backlash of sorts, people feeling like baseball should not be getting involved in politics. But I think it moved on pretty quickly. I think there's a lot of other things going on in the country that people kind of addressed that became more important than where they're playing the All-Star game.
One follower brought up this issue, but I don't know if it's true, but some players are not satisfied with Otani being selected as a pitcher in the All-Star game.
Well, he was voted by the players. The players voted him as a pitcher. So that's why he's on the team as a pitcher. He's not taking a spot from anybody else because they didn't give him 2 spots on the roster. He basically just has 2 designations on the roster. I guess there could be some upset feelings about if he gets to start the game because he's clearly not been the best pitcher in the league this year. And a lot of times the All-Star game starter is the best pitcher. And that's quite an honor for somebody. And if it turns out to be where Otani starts the game, a lot of people would say that's just a publicity thing and that they're doing that just for the TV viewers and it's not really a pure decision, a pure baseball decision.
How do you think Otani will pitch and hit in the All-Star game?
I think there's 2 most reasonable choices. One is that he starts the game, pitches the first inning, and is in the lineup as the DH. That's the simplest thing. That's probably the thing that TV viewers want. That's the thing that's best for Otani. But as I mentioned before, he's not been the best pitcher in the American League, so they might want somebody else to get that honor. So if they do that, then I think the next most reasonable thing is for Otani to pitch later in the game, say like the 7th inning or something like that. That way he can get his at-bats, and then he can go prepare as a pitcher and do his bullpens and stretching and whatever he needs to do as a pitcher. Because if he's going to pitch, the 2nd or 3rd, 4th inning, it's a little tricky for him to get warmed up to do that if he's already in the game as a hitter. So I think that it's probably easier for him to do both at once before the game or to do them separately and pitch later in the game.
If it's a second scenario, that means Ohtani gets taken out of the game as a hitter and then go to the bullpen to prepare and then come in again to pitch, right?
Yes. Normally you would not allow that. But any way that he participates in the game, they're going to be bending the rules because normally the DH is not allowed to pitch. And if you put your DH into the field, you lose the DH, which would mean they would lose the DH for the rest of the game. So obviously, because it's an exhibition, they're going to have some bending of the rules, and they could just bend them all the way and have Ohtani come out of the game entirely and then go back in the game as a pitcher.
If you were the American League manager, how would you use Ohtani?
I would start him. I would have him pitch the first inning just because it's just an exhibition game and it doesn't really matter who wins. And the idea, the point of the All-Star game is to be entertaining for the fans. And I think that's what the fans want. I'm sure that he would have to, go up to, a Garrett Cole or Carlos Rodon or any of those other pitchers that could make a statistical case to start and just say, hey, sorry, this is, an unusual circumstance. You're going to get in the pitch in the second inning, the third inning. You're still going to have an all-star experience. You're just not going to get this first inning because, people want to see Ohtani. And that's the best thing also for Ohtani, so he can prepare to pitch while he's hitting. So that's what I would do.
What are some of the most memorable moments that you can remember in all-star games in the past?
Well, I'm not really big on all-star games. I think that they're I think you tend to like all-star games when you're a little kid. And as you get older and seen more of them, they kind of seem the same. I think one of the most memorable ones was actually David Ortiz played in the All-Star game in 2016 in San Diego. It was his last one. And just the reaction he got from the fans and from the other players, it was really nice. It was just a celebration of David Ortiz. It really didn't have anything to do with the game itself, but that was one moment. And in Cal Ripken's last All-Star game was in Seattle, and he made the team as a third baseman, although he'd been a shortstop for most of his career. And there was kind of a funny moment at the beginning of the game where Alex Rodriguez, who was the shortstop, went over to Cal and basically told him to move over and told him to go back to shortstop to play his position where he'd become so famous, even though he didn't play it anymore. And it was kind of like a nice sort of going away present for Cal Ripken. And then he hit a home run in that game. So those are probably the top two for me.
Do you think Ohtani, if he plays two-way in the All-Star game, do you think he'll be remembered by many people like that?
Oh, yeah, this would definitely be something new. This would be something we haven't seen before.
How about home run derby? Do you have any memorable moments?
The home run derby, I think, is really kind of overrated. It would be nice if was only an hour, but they really stretch it out and it goes very long. But I do remember the Josh Hamilton in the home run derby. I think it was 2008. And he put on a real show where he hit 28 or 30 homers or something like that. And it was just one after the other. Everybody was very impressed with that. And then in 2019, I believe, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Jock Peterson had a duel that was pretty exciting.
What do you think about the concerns that some players and fans about players losing their swings by participating in a home run derby?
Yeah, I don't think there's really been any evidence of that. I think that if players hit fewer homers after the All-Star break, being in the home run derby, than they hit before, I think that's just natural because, first of all, the All-Star break is more than halfway through the season. So you're going to have less games after the home run derby. And second of all, the guys that get picked for the home run derby are the guys who are having the best seasons. So they're hitting home runs at a pace that is not really sustainable. So it's kind of natural that the guys are going to probably hit less homers in the second half. You're not going to have a guy who had a bad first half in the home run derby, and that's the guy that's going to end up hitting more homers in the second half. So I think that it's really not, there's no reason to believe it would affect anybody's swing and affect their performance.
So fans in Japan should not worry about Ohtani participating in the home run derby.
I think the more reason to worry about is fatigue. I think that is more of a legitimate concern, especially the fact that he's going to be hitting the home run derby on Monday, possibly taking, 150 swings at full capacity and then going out there the next day and pitching an inning. I mean, I think there's a chance. It's not a big chance, or he wouldn't be doing it, but I think there's a chance that causes an issue for him, and he's, gets pretty tired. But I think the Angels are going to give him probably a little bit of a break. They're not going to have him pitch again, the first game in the second half, I don't think. So he will get some time off right after all that.
And you're going to the All-Star game this year, right?
Yes, I am. Pretty much for Ohtani. That's pretty much the reason I'm going.
Have you covered other All-Star games in the past?
Yes, I think I've covered about 8, maybe, off the top of my head. And it was always a lot of work. It's never really my favorite assignment because it is, 2 straight 12-hour days. And for a game that is just really an exhibition game, and, 2 days after the game is over, nobody's going to remember what happened in it most of the time. And the alternative is to getting a few days off when, in the middle of 8 straight months of baseball. Those days off are precious. But, this year should be a little different experience because I do expect it will be much more memorable with Ohtani than a normal All-Star game.
How's the atmosphere at the All-Star game like usually?
All the fans are pretty excited about it. I mean, they're much more excited about it than the writers, because for the fans, they don't usually, most of those people probably, it's their only opportunity to see an All-Star game. And they, the home run derby, which may seem kind of long if you're a writer or you're watching it on TV, if you're sitting in the stadium, it's great. You want to get all you can out of it because you paid money for those seats and you've probably been looking forward to it for a long time. So they get very excited about it. It is a big festival, and there's other events that go on, throughout the days leading up to it too. And it's a big celebration for the city. So it's a big deal for the fans in the city.
What can you tell Japanese fans about Coors Field and the city of Denver?
Well, I think the thing that everybody knows, first of all, is that it's the highest altitude city in all of Major League Baseball by a wide margin. So the ball flies there. It's almost a different sport in Denver than it is everywhere else. So as a result, the fences are much further back than in other stadiums, just because of the thin air and the ball flies so far. So what happens then is that because the outfield is so big, you also get a lot more singles and balls that drop into the outfield just because the outfielders have to cover so much ground. So it's a pretty different game played in Denver. I think the home run derby should be especially entertaining in that atmosphere. And as for the city of Denver, it's a great city. It's one of my favorite cities to go to. It's a beautiful city. The weather's nice. It's not usually during baseball season anyway. They do get some snow there at the beginning of the season, but in the summer, it should be very, very, very pleasant.